and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times, What's on TV and whatsawatch.com. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 11th of July 2025, including the new Netflix comedy drama Too Much from Girls creator Lena Dunham, and a look back at Spielberg's classic shark movie in Jaws at 50, the definitive inside story on Nat Geo and Disney Plus.
And we'll also be checking out Live Aid at 40 on BBC iPlayer and the latest in the Michael C. Hall serial killer franchise, Dexter Resurrection, on Paramount Plus. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Filming is underway on Netflix's adaptation of Miles Franklin's Australia-set 1901 novel My Brilliant Career, about a spirited young woman trying to escape her troubled life. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, Martin Compston will star in Paramount Plus's 6-part drama The Revenge Club, about strangers who join a divorce support group and make a dark pact.
We've all been there. Well, a good selection this week, including 2 nostalgic documentaries. We're going to start on Nat Geo and Disney Plus with the first of them, Jaws at 50, the definitive inside story. And here's a clip.
We were on the real ocean, and we were way out of our element for 5 months. And we all began going off the deep end, literally. The film was 100 days behind schedule, and 80% of the time the shark didn't work.
There was a strong undercurrent that the studio would close us down.
I was terrified I was going to be fired, but I never once felt like I wanted to quit.
Can it really be 50 years since Jaws was released? Well, it is. And so, to mark the anniversary, this feature-length doco, looks at the making of the film, really. When it was released, it was a massive blockbuster, the highest grossing film ever made until Star Wars only 2 years later. Anyway, as Spielberg, who just comes across as such a nice guy, doesn't he, considering certain film directors, one of whom appears in this, have reputation for being quite difficult. Anyway, he says that it was the film that could have broken him, but it ended up making him. And it was hugely challenging because they did shoot it at sea. I mean, there were a few scenes shot in a tank, and also some genuine wildlife footage of actual sharks were also cut into the film. But yeah, they had these big mechanical sharks built, which were enormous. I mean, they're huge. And there were some issues with those, so we hear about that. And famously, the 3 stars, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, and Roy Scheider, didn't get on all that well. So they're the 3 who end up on the boat together: the shark hunter, the marine biologist, and the cop. I'm sure everyone must know the story of Jaws, but it's about a great white shark terrorizing a holiday resort in America called Amity. It was actually shot at Martha's Vineyard, which is a very beautiful place. So yeah, you've got other filmmakers such as James Cameron, George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis talking about the impact of Jaws on cinema. We also hear from the stars. There's actually a play now, isn't there, that written by Robert Shaw's son about the 3 men and how they got on or didn't get on while acting in this film. Funnily enough, my local Lido, which does show films, you could go and watch Jaws while sitting in a rubber dinghy in the swimming pool. But I do remember seeing Jaws for the first time, and after that just being terrified to go in the sea, which I think a lot of people were. And also, even when I was in the swimming pool, I'd think the shark was coming to get me. I mean, that was, and it's brilliantly done. It's brilliantly made. And of course, no CGI in those days, Hannah. No. I think it's a very well made, nostalgic look back at an absolute cinematic milestone. Was this one for you, Hannah?
Do you know what? You're so right about the whole, didn't want to swim in the sea and what have you. And it still resonates even now, like with my children watching it, because it looks quite fake now, doesn't it? Like you say, with CGI and everything, making everything look so real. It's quite obvious, but it's still really jumpy. It still really gets you. My kids still watch it. I'm like, oh, Jaws, is there a Jaws in the water? There is something about, because I think there's the Meg, isn't there, that's come out subsequently, which is slightly better on the CGI and what have you, but it just, I don't know, this has really resonated for generation after generation. So the idea that we're sort of this interview with Spielberg, talking about how it was made is really clever. And I always think about a remake and whether they'll, like kind of how they do it, and will it actually just ruin the franchise that's already there, that's so successful. And it hasn't aged well, yet we still talk about it and the kids still love it and they still watch it. So perhaps it has aged well in some ways. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. You learn a lot about it. And as you say, Spielberg comes across as a really quite a lovely person, doesn't he?
Over on Netflix, we have a new comedy drama series called Too Much. And here's a clip.
Girl, are you good?
You're unhappy.
Leaving me is the worst thing that anyone's ever done.
Change your life. Go to London.
Seriously?
You love London. You saw Spice World 9 times in the theater.
I could do it. I could go and find my English dream. Estate grounds, verdant gardens.
Good luck with that, love.
Yes. This is quite a lot of fun. I really quite enjoyed what I've seen of this one. This is season 1. There are 10 episodes in this. And this follows the professional and personal life of New Yorker Jessica Salmon. And she's had a messy breakup, and she's got this kind of romanticizes this idea of what it might be like to have a fresh start across the Atlantic. It's been written by Lena Dunham. So it's once you know that, it just works. I think the narrative is really good, and so her knowledge of the UK and everything around us is, as I say, completely romanticised, and it's drawn from kind of films and TV shows, and she kind of has these visions of getting over her ex while she's running around a country estate or what have you. And of course, in reality, it's completely different. And the UK isn't all like that, is it, Ian? Sadly, it's not all country parties and lovely living, and it's a bit of a culture shock for her. And it's funny, I often think this when you take sort of friends around town who haven't been to London before, you see it through their eyes, or you take your children and you see it through their eyes. And there are some such wow factors in London, aren't there? And any city, actually, real wow factors. In other areas, not so much. And she kind of, it's a bit of a rude awakening. And but on her first night, she meets a musician called Felix who was Will Sharp in The White Lotus, and at a local pub, and they're kind of drawn to one another, and so you can you see their relationship build straight away. So in some ways it's probably a little bit fake. Are you likely to meet somebody that quickly? Possibly not. But he has baggage of his own, and it sees them navigate their tricky lives together. And so there are low points, high points, funny points, and it's enjoyable. It caught me straight away. I loved the first episode. I think it was really funny. We often see it the other way round, don't we? Of people from the UK going to the US. That's how it works. This is kind of like a different take on that, and a relationship and somebody trying to get over something in a completely different country, as a complete culture shock. So I think it's something a bit different. I really quite enjoyed it. What do you think, Ian?
I thought it was superb. I love Lena Dunham. She's actually in this. She appears in this as Jessica's sister. And this is going to make a star of Megan Stalter, who was in Hacks and stars as Jessica. She's fabulous. She's just got funny bones. She's terrific. And Will Sharp, who plays the love interest. Well, I am a big fan of his. So he's so talented. He wrote, directed, and starred in Flowers, which was this kind of quirky Channel 4 comedy drama that had Olivia Colman and Julian Barrett in it a few years ago. He was also in the fantastic Giri Hadji. He was the standout in that. And yes, now he's sort of doing his sort of London shtick in this as Felix. And I love the way it starts. So Jessica is obsessing over the breakup of her relationship, and she actually breaks into her ex's flat at night, and the guy wakes up and he's going, home invasion, and he's there with his new girlfriend, who's this influencer. So she just fixates on this woman's social media. But yeah, anyway, she goes to London, and she meets Felix in a lovely pub in Nunhead that I go to quite a lot, called the Ivy House. And Don Letts makes a little guest appearance there. But then, this is where things that are set in London, if you live in London, you're kind of looking for inconsistencies. They walk from Nunhead to Hoxton, which, believe you me, is a very long walk. Anyway, stand by, folks, because you're going to get guest appearances from Kit Harington, Andrew Scott, Rhea Perlman, Richard E. Grant, Stephen Fry, Naomi Watts, and Jennifer Saunders. Incredible scenes. And also she's got this weird little hairless dog that she takes with her. I mean, it's just hilarious. It's great. And it's got all these sort of it starts off with these kind of fantasy sequence where she imagines herself as like a sort of Wuthering Heights type heroine. Then she imagines herself as sort of like the Sarah Lancashire character from Happy Valley, or a prostitute, sort of in a Jack the Ripper type story. Yeah, it's good stuff. And yeah, it's got Dunham's stamp all over it. But yeah, Stalter, you're a superstar. Over on Paramount Plus, we have a new drama series called Dexter Resurrection. And here's a clip.
Time to meet the man of the manor.
Welcome. I cannot express how excited I am to meet you.
You really like serial killers.
I pride myself on finding the best of the best in every field.
Let's show and tell, baby.
So there are others.
On their way.
Only in New York.
Dexter, the original series, which appeared in 2006, was all about Dexter Morgan, played by Michael C. Hall, played very well, who basically has these murderous urges, but he became a blood spatter expert, and he used to, sort of act as a vigilante and kill baddies, but then because he was trained in sort of forensics and so on, he would be able to clean up the crime scene, so he would never get caught. Anyway, this has spawned a bit of a franchise, and spoiler alert, in the last outing, which was called Dexter New Blood, he was shot by his son Harrison, played by Jack Alcott. So we all thought, well, that's the end of Dexter. But it isn't, because as we rejoin, he's in hospital recovering, and Harrison, very well played by Alcott, has the similar, they call it the dark passenger, this dark side that seems to be passed from one generation to the next, this murderous urge. So Harrison has that as well, but he's got a job in a posh New York hotel where everybody loves him, and he just proves himself to be really popular with the guests. But something happens which sees him kind of going down the same route as Dad in episode 1. And it's very well done. I mean, people who've watched Dexter will already know this, but if you haven't, it's pretty gory, because it is about chopping up bodies and disposing of them, But there's some interesting stuff to come, because Peter Dinklage is in it, and he plays this very rich man who assembles a group of serial killers, including Charlie, played by Uma Thurman. Yeah. And also the tattoo collector, played by Neil Patrick Harris. So yes, that is going to be absolutely fascinating. But yeah, I think Episode 1 was very strong. I know kind of the franchise critics have sort of said it hasn't all been up to the standard of the original, but this, starts really well. I very much enjoyed it, and I can't wait for this kind of this assembly of serial killers. Goodness me, that's going to be fascinating stuff. Hannah, not sure this is your cup of tea.
You know me too well. It's not really, but I think you mentioned there's something about this sort of serial killer that you shouldn't really be rooting for him, but you sort of do in a really funny way. I don't love things like this because they're always just a bit gory and a bit jumpy, and I don't know, I find them a bit intense. But I don't know, there is something about this that I think people will like, particularly if you like this genre. So there was the original series, and I think there were some spin-offs too. And I think you probably get a little bit more bang for your buck with this one. I think it feels quite sort of cup full by the end of it. But I don't know. I still. You know what I'm like. I'm still looking under my bed before I go to bed. So the idea of something like this, it's just a bit, you don't want to be watching it before you go to sleep, do you? It's too much.
Well, it's time to get nostalgic again, because on BBC iPlayer, there's a new documentary series called Live Aid at 40. And here's a clip.
It's 12 noon in London, 7 a.m. in Philadelphia. And around the world, it's time for Live Aid.
It had to be spectacular. It seemed a harebrained scheme. It seemed like this could never happen.
Direct from London,
the story of Live Aid, from its beginnings to its legacy.
Yes, Live Aid at 40. I think no matter what generation you're in, you'll remember one of the Live Aids, won't you? Actually, and kind of Bob Geldof is incredibly vocal about it, and it's a charity, something that is completely close to his heart, and he, it's just something that's really quite incredible, and the amount of money that it's raised as well. And this is on BBC Two. It's a 3-part documentary, and it basically marks this historic event and looks at the amount of money that was raised, and it looks at the legacy of this fundraising initiative too. And Bob Geldof is interviewed. There's interviews with him, lots of the performers, and there's been lots of talk about this, hasn't there, and whether it should be done. There's been it's come under criticism, in fact, recently, although Sir Bob Geldof went and stood and said, no, this has raised an awful lot of money, we shouldn't be embarrassed of what we're doing, it's amazing what we're doing, and sort of articulated why it was so important. And I think it's really interesting, because what this does is it kind of shows you why and how it started and through the years. And I'm always interested to know whether there'll be another one. The amount of star wattage in some of these groups, when they all came together, was absolutely incredible, and done in such a short period of time as well, that he got everybody together and that everybody wanted to do it. So it shows you behind the scenes footage of the 1984 Band Aid charity single Do They Know It's Christmas, and then the Live Aid concerts of 2005. Of course, Freddie Mercury was involved. It's really feel good. I think it's brilliant. I really enjoyed watching this.
I did too, and of course a lot has been said since the days of Live Aid about white saviours, and also about the lyrics to the Band Aid song, which shifted so many copies. But and the title, Do They Know It's Christmas? Well, you see Geldof going to Ethiopia and having to sit through a Christian festival that lasts for days. so yeah, obviously it was in some ways, it was quite rushed, of course, and in some ways naive, but what they achieved was quite remarkable in terms of raising cash and awareness. And although, Geldof is a bit of a Marmite figure, he just doesn't take no for an answer, and he speaks his mind, and it was his kind of visceral reaction to that famous Michael Burke reports on the famine that got this whole thing going. You see him meeting Mother Teresa. You see him reluctantly going to Ethiopia because a photographer who works for the papers says, after a while they weren't interested in covering the famine anymore, and the only way that they would start covering it again is if they had pictures of a celebrity going there. So he reluctantly did go. But yeah, it's a fascinating look back at an amazing piece of musical and charity history. And as Bono actually says, who is not keen on the fact that he has to sing the line, "Tonight, thank God it's them instead of you," he makes the point that, the Irish actually have a sort of folk history of famine, so it's something that they can relate to, of course. So yeah, it's a three-parter, and there's a lot around the anniversary of Live Aid, and I think they're going to be showing like highlights from the day itself, which I think Status Quo were first on, weren't they? And Queen with kind of the star attraction. So yes, it's going to be so strange to see that again. But yeah, I mean, we both love these rockumentaries, and this is a very good one. Well, we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the hell you've been binge watching this week.
Well, it's been Ozzy Osbourne's been on tour, hasn't he? They reckon it'll be the last one. And so I thought I'd have a little look up on the Osbournes because it always makes me smile. It's always quite funny. It's always makes for good TV. And I watched the Osbournes on Amazon Prime. Always worth a watch because however chaotic your family life might seem, it will never be as chaotic as theirs.
Agreed. Never mind Oasis. Black Sabbath have been playing in Birmingham, haven't they? Well, of course, the Tour de France is on, so I have been binging my way through the latest series of Tour de France Unchained, which has just dropped. And I finished Squid Game, Hannah, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Some of the new games, wow, amazing. Well, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings. So what's on the agenda, Brenda?
Well, Eric Bana stars in Wilderness Murder Mystery Untamed, which will be on Netflix.
And move over, Jaws. It's Shark, Celebrity-Infested Waters on ITVX. I cannot wait. I can think of some celebrities I'd like to go into shark-infested waters.
Too.
But we'll discuss that next week. There's no time now. So we look forward to those. But in the meantime, dear listeners,
watching.